We've got a little bit smaller crowd here, which is good. A lot of people have sent me emails saying that they look forward to watching the recordings on YouTube on the OC Callers webpage, because many people are actually back to dancing 2 or 3 times a week. Some of them dance on the Saturdays, some of them dance on the Sundays. So welcome to everybody that's come in at the morning, evening, afternoon, or absolute middle of O Dark 100, as some of you in Europe are sitting now, watching the clock tick away at midnight or thereabouts. Today, what we're going to be talking about is the topic of symmetry. Just as a note, if you do have any questions, by all means, put them into the chat. Send them actually to Mark, because I'm presenting today, so I will not be watching the chat as we go, because I'll be looking at the screens. Why is this not coming up on the? There we go. Did that show up okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so what we're going to be looking at is symmetry. And as I said, today and then for the next few sessions, we've got Edeltraud coming in next week. And then for the next few sessions after that, we're going to go back to looking at some of the base foundation skills and some of the caller skills that we can develop for new callers, for intermediate and journeyman callers, and also to help the experienced callers to guide and to help mentor, now that we've created all these communication links on Zoom. So there's a lot more available to the world than there ever was before, as far as coaching, mentoring, and getting the information, as opposed to getting fed with a fire hose at a caller school. So on the topic of symmetry, symmetry itself is so much more than just what is called the mirror image, you know, and everybody knows what the mirror image is. You divide the square in half and one side looks exactly like the other side, no matter how you divide it. Symmetry in general terms, as far as square dance choreography goes, means one thing, and that's balance. Unfortunately, most callers don't look at this way, much more than indicating one half of the square does, the other half does the same, or the old adage, draw a line through the square and the other half's a mirror image. It's usually looked at when a condition exists on one side of a formation, well, it exists on the other side. For instance, if you have a corner box on one side, well, you've got a corner box on the other side. But there is so very much more than that. For sight callers, there are many aspects to symmetry, but the 3 most important that generally come into play, and we've talked about these in different sessions, are formation symmetry, and this is generally referred to as the mirror image. There's arrangement symmetry. This applies to the gender symmetry, or the boy arrangement and the girl arrangement in that mirror, so that gender-specific calls can apply. And then there's sequence symmetry. And this is the opposing dancer relationship that's applied to specific dancers, and that's always being mirrored. And that's, Daryl Clendenin has put up some excellent exercises, as has Don Beck and Kip Garvey. And that's the kind of symmetry where if you know where one boy is, or the number 1 girl is, then you know where the number 3 girl is. If you know where the number 1 boy is, then you know where the number 3 boy is, and so forth. You know, in short, if the dancers dance what you call and they don't make any mistakes, what is typically called at most open dances, all 3 of those types of symmetry will exist simultaneously. It's a very, very powerful tool, especially for sight callers, because what it does, it substantially reduces the number of combinations or the number of ways that you can mess up significantly. And believe me, as a caller, I know we don't have any trouble finding the ways to mix the dancers up and getting lost ourselves. Symmetry is a powerful tool because it cuts that number down. It doesn't seem like it, but trust me, it does. There is, however, a lot to learn about symmetry before you even consider sight calling. Okay. As a newer caller, it's important to begin to understand the basic principles of symmetry. When a caller begins to understand the basics, then they can identify one dancer in a square, and they know where specific other dancers are. So if you know one dancer, then you know 2. If you can identify 3 dancers in a square, then you can automatically identify who is where in the entire square. Because if you know number 1 man, you know number 3 man, you know where his partner is, then you know where his partner's opposite is. If you know where the corner is, you know 3 dancers' locations. Taking that and automatically figuring out where everybody is becomes a useful skill, but that's a little bit further on in the development stage of learning to call. And we've had a couple sessions on that as well. It's this principle, however, that and how we apply it to using modules in known sequence. And what we're discussing is we're only bringing it up just to put it on the table to say that at this point, for new callers, we're not worried about sight calling. There is so much to learn about calling and moving dancers and flow and everything else before you even have to worry about sight calling. We're not worried about sight resolution. Sight resolution is an important skill, but is very low on the totem pole as far as learning. And we are not worried about asymmetrical or symmetrical formation arrangement. And the reason we're not worried about that is because if you call normal stuff, they're going to be symmetrical unless the dancers mess up. And if that happens, you do your best to fix it and you don't worry about it. Get home, give them a couple seconds to figure it out, get back and start over again. It's sufficient enough at this point to know that if you recognize the formation and you understand the basic principle of mirror image, then you can use choreographic substitution symmetry, such as pass through and courtesy turn instead of right and left through, that kind of stuff, to add simple and easy variety in your calling modules without making things insanely difficult or worse, insanely technical. So now that we begin to understand the basic principle behind symmetry, let's have a look at how we can apply that knowledge as a new caller to incorporate a different kind of symmetry into our modules for calling, for variety, and to enhance the dancer experience without adding difficulty. So for new callers, you just have to accept the mirror image concept. If you don't believe it, take it home, get a ruler out, and just put your checkers down, put the ruler between any two dancers opposite, and you'll see exactly what we're talking about. Most new callers start out by what is known as a process of parroting. In other words, you'll take a singing call figure, heads promenade, halfway, square through 4, right and left through, veer left, Ferris wheel, square through 3, swing your corner. Your pattern becomes heads promenade halfway, or heads are right and left through, square through 4, right and left through, veer left, Ferris wheel, square through 3, Alaman, left your corner. That's parroting. After that, you get the foundation modules. And we've talked about those 5 foundation modules. We'll have a quick look at those a little bit later. Then we talk about using modules. Then we develop into isolated sight, 2-couple calling. Then we talk about focus modules, specifying a specific movement or a theme in a module and incorporating that into the theme of the tip. After we've got all that, we begin to learn about sight calling. And the use and awareness of symmetry should develop as a basic skill while you're learning all those other things prior to learning how to sight call. And this is especially true when we start talking practical terms in the 5 beginning foundation modules. So let's just have a quick look at those again. Okay, so the 5 foundation modules that we have, we identified in a session a long time ago, actually in 5 different sessions. The first one, I call it the mixer mover. It's the corner box to corner box module, which is swing through, boys run, Ferris wheel, centers pass through. Takes you from a corner box or any box back to the exact same footprint. It's an exact 0 for a box. The second one is I'm calling, I need to take a break, but I need to keep the dancers moving. I get them into lines and I call pass through, wheel and deal, double pass through, first couple left, next couple go right. It's a partner line to a partner line or any line to any line people mover that just keeps them moving without changing. Again, it's a line 0. Then we have your basic conversion, the partner line to corner box. Touch a quarter, all 8 circulate, boys run. That takes me from a line to a box or a partner line to a corner box. Then we have the magic module, which in its basic form is swing through, girls circulate, boys trade, boys run, bend the line. And there is a reason why it's boys trade and girls circulate, and it's called the magic module because you can put things on the front or back of it that will change that whole impact of what that module does. We've had an hour session, about a 4-hour discussion on that. So go back and watch the videos on that. But the magic module is a very important one. And finally, the 5th foundation module is the chicken plucker, or the basic traffic pattern module, which is right and left through, dive through, pass through, or an equivalent. Now, all callers should have those 5 modules as part of their basic repertoire, as they are the 5 foundation building blocks of calling and moving people around. We all use them. It's just that as we get more experience, we tend to disguise them with the use of equivalents and such. So if anybody says, I don't use these modules, or I don't use a chicken plucker, I don't, chances are they do. They may not even be aware of it. They're just doing it unconsciously, and they disguise it by using other movements in that place. What I want to talk about are the forgotten symmetries. And these are the important ones for adding and enhancing the dancer experience. Up to this point, the symmetry of the calling is all for the caller. This type of symmetry is for the dancer. And there's three other kinds of symmetry which are unfortunately usually ignored by a lot of callers, or alternatively are used effectively by many callers, and they don't even understand what it is they're doing or why it's working. And once they get their head around it, wow, an entire world opens up to them. And these three symmetries are one, directional symmetry. And this is often called the opposite hand or the opposite way symmetry. It's essentially using the mirrored left or right version of a same sequence module where the ending or the finish arrangement of the dancers is normal, and it's exactly the same as its left hand or right hand counterpart. So if I call touch a quarter, all eight circulate, boys run, a left hand symmetry of that is left touch a quarter, all eight circulate, girls run. I start in the same position, I end in the same position, but I've got a completely different flow. And this is the one that we're going to do most of the focus of this session. The second symmetry is location symmetry. This is often called opposite side symmetry. And there have been some excellent presentations on this, including working from Right Hand Lady Box Resolutions. Bob Elling, who's with us here today, gave an excellent presentation on this. He's got a variation of the chicken plucker, which he uses, which keeps them in sequence. But the principle is the same. It's location symmetry, moving the dancers to the other side, working with different people. In its simplest form, it's one of two things. It's either the chicken plucker effect and doing the same thing on the opposite side, then coming back with a chicken plucker or a half chicken plucker, do the same thing, come back with a half chicken plucker. The second part is the invert and rotate effect, where everyone is paired in the same phasar. So you could be in a corner box relationship, but it moves to see who is where within that corner box relationship, and it moves them into a different quadrant of the square. So if you start, for instance, a corner box with the heads on the outside and the heads are in the home position, you could use a module that would rotate it so now the heads are in the side position, but the sides are on the outside. You've just rotated it and moved who's where, or you could put the heads in the side position on the outside and vice versa. For a partner line with a 1P, 2P, in other words, couple number one, couple number two in the same line in sequence, it rotates them around to a partner line, which is a 4P, 1P line, which would have couple number 4 and couple number 1 in that line, and they're still in sequence. That's a rotation symmetry and also an inversion symmetry. And we've had great presentations on both of those. The third one is duplication symmetry. And this is often referred to as do it twice. If in trouble, do it double is the old adage. But this is called the do it twice routine, where you call a routine twice, once for the girls and once for the boys, or you call a routine as many times as is needed to zero out. These are fractional zeros, and their fractional zeros are a very good example of directional symmetry. Sorry. When symmetry is used properly, it creates a feeling of both balance and variety, but it also gets that feeling of really using the dance floor and mixing well and dancing and changing directions and going everywhere and feeling that you as a dancer have really achieved something special, even though the reality is, from a caller's point of view and from a dancer's point of view, there was really very little work involved in that. So when we talk about, excuse me, somebody's. Mark, do you have Steve Avery's, or can you post the chat in Facebook? Steve Avery's trying to get in. Can you hear me, Mark?
You want the link posted?
Yeah. Do you have Steve Avery's email?
No.
Okay, 1 second here. Sorry, everybody, 1 second. to Facebook newbie callers. Okay. So really great callers make use of the symmetry application, and they're acclaimed as true artists. Unfortunately, others tend to think that doing it left-handed and working something to death and or being tricky and technically clever is just learning the definitions, and this is what dancers have to do. They have to learn the definitions in order to dance this kind of stuff. Those callers are the ones that seem to think that because they know it, the dancer should be able to do it. It's common sense, it's logical. We hear the term DBD. When they start doing this, it's called death by definition. And this death by definition causes fatigue, and fatigue, especially with the dancers, that many callers try to push. When that happens, the caller is trying to impress other callers with their choreography and whatnot, not themselves. And that caller is calling for himself or herself and not for the dancers. I can assure you that when callers do this, it's not symmetry, it's idiocy. Symmetry, when it's done well, is like poetry, and there's a rhythm and a flow and a balance, very much like the way a good poem is structured. Square dance symmetry is very much the same. You want the dancers to be able to do something without too much thought, but you want them to feel something a little bit different. You want to have that experience of wind in the face, smooth flow, moving in a different direction, and more importantly, the thrill of overcoming a seeming challenge, even if that challenge isn't there. And that's what you can achieve with good symmetry. So good choreographic symmetry has some specific benefits. The dancers are seemingly challenged and feel successful. There's simple peaks and interests that cause smiles with the dancers on the dance floor. Symmetry can equalize a dance floor across all programs and all capabilities. And both new and experienced dancers enjoy the variety of symmetry. The negatives of good symmetry, there aren't any. It's just simply that good. And, you know, if you learn to do symmetry and use it properly, it's that good. There is no disadvantage to it. So this brings us to the practical part. How do we do it? You know, how are we going to use symmetry? The first thing we have to do is change your mindset from square dance movement mechanics to choreographic presentation. Now that's a hard ask for a lot of new callers. But in other words, what we're doing is acknowledging the fact that you already know your basic choreography. You already know how it works. So now it's time to change the mindset from choreography to impress callers to choreography that will give the dancers a positive experience that they can enjoy. And when you do this, the actual choreographed mechanics and the movement mechanics are going to take care of themselves. Good symmetry is planned. And believe it or not, it's mainly modular in concept because you're doing a reverse of something that's known. It introduces variety without getting into abstract complexities of formations and individual positions and analysis, or worse, that technical death by definition. Okay. What you want to do is you want to introduce known and familiar arrangements and formations that the dancers can sink their teeth into, then employ a symmetrical aspect to create a pleasing and successful experience for the dancers. And when this is done, good symmetry, when it's done well, ends the dancers in a normal formation, a normal gender arrangement, and in a place that they are ready, easily recognizing and wanting to go ahead because, wow, I did that. Wow, this feels great. Okay. One of the key things for success is you want to keep your sequences relatively short so that the dancers can beat the challenge that you put in front of them, because they have to feel like they're the winners and they're successful. And when you're doing it right, they feel like winners. For new callers and new dancers, or even those dancers that are weak, regardless of the program listing, you want to focus on two specific types of symmetry. The first is directional symmetry, and the second is location symmetry. These two types are the base foundation forms of simple and innovative variety in your calling. Okay. The method is to use calls that flow with proper timing, which is identical to the symmetrical counterpart. Doing this will at the same time give innovation to the sequences. It'll add variety to an evening program, but it will still flow and it'll still time out well for dancing, and it'll still provide balance to choreographic sequences at every program level. At SSD, symmetry is a strong proponent. At basic, mainstream, plus advanced, and I only go up to A1, but at all the other levels above that, symmetry will add variety to a program that will just balance a floor out and make it feel wonderful. What makes it such a powerful tool is that both callers and dancers already know the choreography. Dancers and callers already generally know what to do with that choreography. It feels familiar and comfortable, but just a little bit different without being difficult. So in short, it's a very easy pill to swallow to cure an otherwise mediocre calling and dancing experience. Okay, so that's the overview. Let's look at what is called the meat on the dinner plate. Now, I use that analogy because we've all heard the term of, oh, what did you have last night? I had a steak dinner. How many people talk about everything else that went around that steak dinner? You've got the symmetry of how the table's set, the place settings, who's sitting where so they can see it. What else is on that plate that makes that steak dinner an experience? Well, all of that is the variety and everything else. It's not just a slab of meat sitting on an empty plate. There's a whole bunch more that goes into it. That's why we call it, but a steak dinner in itself is so much more than just a piece of dead flesh. Directional symmetry, this is what we use to create balance by equalizing the clockwise rotation with the counterclockwise rotation, or the right hand motion with the left hand motion. It works beautifully and it makes the dancers feel, wow, I'm doing something different, but it's so easy. I didn't know I knew this much. Dancers perceive the movement right to left, as well as the emphasis on the right hand versus the left hand. So when you change it, they really feel that. Many of these concepts have already been introduced, so that concept is not new. We're already familiar with dancers. Examples of directional symmetry and directional opposites have defined reverse calls or specific standard left calls, such as flutter wheel, its symmetrical counterpart, reverse flutter wheel, swing through, left swing through, square through, left square through, wheel around, reverse wheel around. Okay. Callers use these defined symmetry calls as complementary calls in a flowing manner to employ both directions within a choreographic sequence, and thereby they create that pleasing balanced effect. What is overlooked, however, is if it's not written, we tend to ignore it. If we expand that symmetry to the rest of what we already know, you would be very, very surprised at what you can already do. So let's just have a quick look at some of these. So I can put these into terminations if you wish, if you want to have a look at the flow, but these are our foundation modules. So I'll just go quickly through them. So we've got the standard corner box module that we talked about: swing through, boys run, Ferris wheel, centers pass through, Alaman left. I can call that exact same sequence and set it up. Instead of getting my corner box set up with a head square through, I'll set it up with a head's left square through. So now my left hand is free. I'm going to call the same sequence, only using left, changing boys to girls, and that's it. Heads left square through, left swing through, girls run, Ferris wheel, it's a lefty, centers pass through, Alaman left. That feels so completely different, and yet it's exactly the same thing. The dancers know it, they can dance it, it will flow the same, it will time the same. The second one is pass through, wheel and deal, double pass through. First couple go left, next couple go right. This is probably the only difficult part of symmetry, is the wheel and deal. Because as we know, by definition, on a wheel and deal, pass through, left hand couple takes a small step forward, and then you wheel towards the center as a couple, which brings the right hand couple in first. If they're both on the left side, they both take a step forward and they wheel in. If you do a left wheel and deal, then instead of the right hand couple going in first, the left hand couple goes in first. And you may have to prompt that once or twice, pass through, left hand couple in first, left wheel and deal. the dancers will pick up on that very, very quickly. And instead of saying first couple go left, next couple go right, you just changed it. First couple go right, next couple go left. And it flows beautifully. Dancers have absolutely no problem with that. That is basic level calling, although if you put that in Taminations, for some reason it reads as A1. I don't know why, but it just does. Swing through, girls circulate, boys trade, boys run, bend the line. The magic module has a symmetrical version. Left swing through, instead of girls circulate, you say boys circulate, ladies trade. Instead of boys run, you say girls run, bend the line. We're right back into a standard boy on the left, girl on the right, partner line arrangement. And yet it flows beautifully and feels different. Or our standard conversion, partner line to corner box, touch a quarter, all 8 circulate, boys run, becomes left touch a quarter, all 8 circulate, girls run. Those seemingly simple foundations will make such a big difference to your calling. If you look at most modules where you have a boy-girl action, there's very few exceptions where you cannot find a directional symmetry variation to assist you in what you're actually adding variety to. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to look at a sequence. And it's going to be a fairly long sequence, but I'm doing this intentionally. So if I have, is that coming up on your screen? Is anybody still out there?
Yeah.
Okay, you should have Taminations up on your screen now.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so let's just paste that in there. That'll take a couple seconds to load. And while that's loading, well, I will do this. Copy, let's create a second screen here.
Oh.
Okay. So let's look at this sequence first of all. I'm going to put this on fast because it is a long sequence. 379 beats of music, so that's 5 out of 7 figures in a pattern record, if you will. Right? So when we do this, this is your standard right-hand symmetry. So we start with the head square through. Right hand starts, swing through. Boys, girls circulate, boys trade. Bend the line, touch a quarter, circulate, boys run, swing through. Boys run, Ferris wheel. Here's the first thing, spin chain through, girls circulate, twice, boys run, bend the line. Another corner box to partner line conversion. Pass through, wheel and deal, center swing through, centers turn through. There's another line to box conversion. All of this is right hand originated motion, even though there's some left hand flows, but this is all right hand. You've got the variations from the courtesy turn to give the left flows, the box, then that gives that left turn. Every bit of this, though, is your standard choreography. And it goes on through the rest of it. Extend, swing through, split circulate, boys run, pass through, swing through twice, boys run, pass through, girls run, left swing through twice, because we set up a left hand wave, we'll do a left swing through, pass through, Allemande left, right and left grand, and promenade home. This is that exact same sequence, and all I've done here is change the square through to a left square through, the swing through to a left swing through. I've used end circulate, centers trade, but that's changing girls circulate, boys trade to boys circulate, girls trade. Touch a quarter, all 8 circulate, boys run is now left touch a quarter, all 8 circulate, girls run. The Ferris wheel centers pass through. Now I know spin chain through is a outside inside. I called left spin chain through because I have to indicate I want you to start with the left hand. But instead of spin chain through, girls circulate twice, boys run, bend the line. I call it left spin chain through, boys circulate twice, girls run. Everything here is the exact same symmetrical version of that first sequence. And that's all left-handed. Sorry, it's not all left-handed, it's all left-hand start. Now, when you look at this, this is not bad choreographic flow at all. There's good sequencing, there's good mix and match, but you notice the direction that the dancers are moving most of the time is in the same general direction around the square. Whereas when you've got normal symmetry, you've got that counterclockwise rotation for the ladies. In symmetry, now you've got this clockwise rotation for the boys going around. In general terms. And right and left, Grant. And every component of that takes me back to exactly the same place I started. So if I reset that, this is the same sequence again. Now Taminations is going to have a hissy fit. Or not have a hissy fit. But this is going to be exactly the same sequence, but all I've done here is instead of doing right hand flow, right hand flow, right hand flow, I've gone right hand flow, set it up to a left hand flow. Right hand flow, set it up to a left hand flow. There we go. So what this one does, it'll start out with your normal head square through. There's my corner box, swing through, girls circulate, boys trade, boys run, bend the line. There's my partner line. Instead of saying a touch a quarter, all eight circulate, boys run, I do a left touch a quarter, all eight circulate, girls run. Then I'm back to my module, swing through, boys run, Ferris wheel, centers, pass through. I've got both hands free, so I switch to left. So now I'm switching right and left. And just, I know it's on very fast, and all of these sequences are in and will be in the handout so that you can actually paste them in and watch them in Taminations. I'm just doing them fast just to show you what the differences are. So now I'm doing left hand, boys circulate twice, girls run around a boy, bend the line, there's my partner line. Standard right hand, pass through, wheel and deal, center swing through, turn through. Left hand, left swing through, girls cross run, left swing through, boys cross run. There's that duplication symmetry for the genders. And this kind of stuff pulls in all the time. A simple chicken plucker. Instead of a right and left through a conversion, step through and courtesy turn, you know. All of those kinds of things will work all of the time. And the change now has the boys going one way, the girls going the other. Then it changes back. And now we're moving and we're starting each little different sequence, for the most part, in a different spot on the floor. Now, just watch the number 1 or the number 4 couple. Okay. They're over on the far left. Now they're over on the top right. Okay, I called that one a little bit late, but I think you get the essence of it, of what we're actually talking about.
Hey Mel, just for the heck of it, can you click a path on one of those just to get an idea what the path looks like through all those moves?
You want the path on. It's going to look like a mess.
Well, no, I was just saying, we just click like the number 1 man or something, but it looks pretty symmetrical though. Yeah.
That's the number 1 man's path. But as you notice, there's you have with the symmetry that same circle. You've got the same figure 8. You've got the same figure 8. You've got the same line drawn through. But you've got different things because I hadn't repeated the sequence in its entirety. But you can really see if I click on the number 3 man, there's the mirror image of each path. and they are identical.
Mel,
Yes?
when I do that left wheel or reverse wheel, I used to call it reverse wheel and Neil,
Yep.
but I do a left double pass through to
Yeah, you can
to
do that as
complete
well.
to add to it, because later on if you do a left track too, or it makes it flow better.
Absolutely. And that's one of the beauties of this type of symmetry. You notice at the end of it, if I did a double pass through or I did a left double pass through, the dancer would pass left shoulder. It feels strange, but at the end of it, where are they? Standard boy on the left, girl on the right. First couple go left, next couple go right. First couple go right, next couple go left. Feels different, but they end up in that exact same normal, familiar, recognizable, comfortable position, but they feel like they've achieved something different. And that's the beauty. Excellent point, Bob. Excellent point. So you note in each of those sections that we just looked at there has either a general right or a symmetrical left-hand flow, with the only exchange being the odd change of a square through to a left square through, or the established hand free to a left hand swing through. Generally, the only actions that change are changing swing through to left swing through, boys to girls, flutter wheel to reverse flutter wheel, and so forth. With all those flows geared in only one direction, what can happen is, and you see this a lot, men do this to ladies. You drive the ladies around in circles. Ladies, you do this to the men. You drive us around in circles. If you can establish this kind of symmetrical flow, what happens is you still get exactly the same calling feel, the same essence, the same sequencing, the same timing, but by putting those symmetrical aspects in on short bits and pieces, you change that grinding into a circle over, and you get rid of a lot of that overflow. And with all the flow geared in one direction, you can't do that. However, we can look at exactly the same sequences mixing and matching like we did here with directional symmetry, and we come up with a lot of variety and a lot of change that feels like you're using now the entire floor, mixing the square, achieving something really and truly unique. You know, as Bob said, pass through, do a left wheel and deal, do a left double pass through. First couple go right, next couple go left. It's so easy for the dancers, but they've got it. But for the caller, there's virtually no change to what is already known. So we've done the mix and match. We've done the left mix and match. So let's just go back and have a quick look here at what we've done. So this is the full sequence. That's a big, long sequence. That's all right hand. That's exactly the same left hand. And you know, it times out exactly the same. It has the same feel. It has the same standard formation endings, the same standard formation setups. The corner boxes are established in exactly the same place. This is the sequence broken down if we want to add corner boxes and partner lines. Now, you remember back at the beginning, I said keep it short. So heads left square through. I'm in a corner box. Swing through, ends circulate, centers trade, centers run, bend the line. I'm in a partner line. Guess what? All of those are modules. Corner box to partner line, corner box to corner box, partner line to partner line. And you notice that they repeat themselves. For instance, down here at the second last one in blue, pass through, boys run. Swing through twice, boys run. Pass through, girls run. Swing through twice, girls run. That's the duplication symmetry. So now we've got all of the symmetries working together, and we've got a dance flow that just goes, wow. And you know what? I haven't added really anything new on this. This is stuff you all know. You've got modules. So if I can create a right-hand module, I can create a left module. If I have this one, see where this says spin chain through, girls circulate, boys run, bend the line. If I do this to swing through, boys run, Ferris wheel, centers pass through, I can change this to left swing through, boys circulate, girls run, bend the line, and still be in exactly the same spot for the next module. It will flow one to the next. That's what the power is. There is no downside to learning this. Okay, so let's talk about basic location symmetry. And this is the second part and the last part of this session. is all about location symmetry. Now, if you remember back in some of the previous lessons, there's two parts to this. One part is the chicken plucker, and that's the location symmetry module, where you move from one couple from one side to the other side of the square, dance with different people, then move them back. And the second part is the invert and rotate, which is the active dancer and placement symmetry. It means I'm going to change heads on the inside to heads on the outside and move them to a different part of the floor. Okay, now the invert and rotate module is really quite complex. We've had several discussions on this topic, just all by itself. Don Wood, Kip Garvey, Mike Hayworth has been here. Bob Ellings talked about it in his presentation. The invert and rotate is a very, very powerful tool, but it has a lot of inherent dangers to the unwary caller. And a lot of these have been talked about in other sessions, so we can talk about them later if there's time, but just go back and have a relook at the invert and rotate sessions. What we're not going to look at in this session, because right now we're only geared to the foundation skills for new callers, is all of those technical details. We want to keep this very, very simple and very basic. So that kind of stuff is getting pretty heavy into the development toolbox. For new callers and newer callers, the only aspect of location symmetry you really need to be concentrating on to start with is the traffic pattern or the chicken plucker symmetry module. Okay, and the aspect of that is the aspect of location symmetry that we're talking about here is the employing of the chicken plucker or the traffic pattern to incorporate that model of symmetry into your calling. Okay, we've already introduced using a corner box to corner box module, doing a chicken plucker and repeating it. So let's say our module is swing through, spin the top, slide through. There's a corner box to corner box module. We know that we can go get in to a corner box, swing through, spin the top, slide through, back in the same spot, do a chicken plucker, swing through, spin the top, slide through, do a chicken plucker, and we're right back in that original corner box, Alaman left, and resolve. Incorporating the chicken plucker mentality, especially with equivalence for symmetry and variety, adds changes and feel to an entire dance. So at the basic level, let's have a look at that chicken plucker. Right and left through, pass through, trade by. An equivalent to a chicken plucker is swing through, boys run, Ferris wheel, square through 3. That gives me a left hand free. The symmetry model of that is I'm going to do another chicken plucker, but I got my left hand free, left swing through, girls run, Ferris wheel, left square through 3. I'm back to a corner box and my right hand is free. So this is another powerful tool of symmetry. If you know how to use it, rather than square through 3, do side o, swing through, you can do a left square through 3, the right hand is free, go right into the swing through. Or you can do a square through 3, the left hand is free, go right into the Alaman left for the resolution. It allows you that flexibility to end or to continue or to do something else in its entirety. Remember, you can do all sorts of things like this with just a little bit of emphasis on the word left. And remember to change boys to girls. You really don't need to change anything else to get a little bit of variety and make innovative choreography to impress the dancers. Remember, your dancers are your target audience, not other callers. So if you're calling to impress the dancers, you've already probably got most of this stuff down already. So the last thing I want to look at is using symmetry in just as we've talked about there with the direction changes and the foundation modules. So I'm just going to go back to terminations here for a second. Let's reset that and we'll paste this instead. And now we wait. Come on. Wakey, wakey. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to put this on normal speed so I can talk you through it. But this is essentially, if you just can see the calls on the left side, I've got to get in, head square through. That takes me to a corner box. Swing through, boys run, Ferris wheel, centers pass through, Alaman left. The exact same sequence. Heads, left square through, left swing through, girls run, Ferris wheel, centers pass through, Alaman left. I haven't changed anything. And what I'm doing here is just that. So here's my square through, swing through, boys run, Ferris wheel, centers pass through, Alaman left your corner, square your set. The exact same sequence, but it feels different. Left square through, left hand's free, left swing through. Instead of boys run, I'm going to call girls run. Ferris wheel, uphill, just that word, left, or centers pass through, Alaman left square the sets. Another one, heads lead to the right, circle to a line. Here's that pass through, wheel and deal sequence. Pass through, wheel and deal, double pass through. First couple go left, next couple go right. There's my partner line. Okay, so it's the same thing. Lead to the right, circle to a line. I have a partner line. Pass through, left wheel and deal. So now the left-hand couple goes first. Here, as Bob said, I could do a left double pass through, but it doesn't change it. First couple go right, next couple go left. Another one of our foundation modules. And as you can see, every one of those foundation modules has its asymmetrical counterpart. So what I want to look at here is, where's my spin the top? Okay, so we'll stop that there. I've lost the last one, but I don't really think we need it. So let's go back to PowerPoint. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. So through the use of simple directional symmetry, you've got to make sure it works, and the location symmetry, what we can do is we can increase a dancer experience tenfold without actually learning how to do anything new. So I've got this down here, and you notice these are different color codes, and I'll explain them in just a second. All we've done is we've taken our basic modules and we've exchanged a left and a right to a boy and a girl. The module itself doesn't change. It's short, it's sweet, and in the end, a standard formation. The dancers are comfortable and they feel successful beating the challenge. The hardest thing that you may ever have to do in this thing is just prompting that left on the wheel and deal, left hand coupling first, or as Bob Elling was saying, left double pass through. That is the hardest thing in any of this. So as you can see on this, I've got a standard get in, head square through to a corner box, any corner box, okay? Chicken plucker, chicken plucker, chicken plucker, chicken plucker, symmetrical version of the chicken plucker. My one module, swing through, spin the top, slide through. Chicken plucker to take it on the other side, but done with a left. So a left square through means my right hand is free. I can go right into that swing through, spin the top, slide through. There's my module again. My right hand is free, or both hands are free actually. Swing through, boys run, Ferris wheel, center, square through three. Guess what? There's my chicken plucker again. Alaman, left, right, and left grand. What I've done is chicken plucker, chicken plucker, chicken plucker, chicken plucker, module, chicken plucker, module, chicken plucker. And yet that feels like a whole dance being danced right there. Didn't reset.
Mel,
Yes.
I'd like to point out, or you might not realize it, but to dancers, it's more of an accomplishment to do a left double pass through than it is to do a left swing through.
It is.
And
Absolutely.
you know why?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Because they do it without hands.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a left swing through, they got something to hold on to. A left double pass through, there's no one to hold on to.
Okay.
And it gives them more a feeling of accomplishment. It's not harder to do.
Absolutely. And for a dancer, by the same token, dancers in the center doing a left square through 3 to end facing their corner and going right into a right hand swing through, they go, wow, but yet they do exactly the same. If I say square through 4, but instead of doing the first hand, step in and face your partner, or sorry, pass through and face your partner, you know, now I do a finish your square through. That's all they're doing. That left square through 3, but it feels so different. And yet you set that up. This is that exact same sequence. And all it is chicken plucker, chicken plucker, chicken plucker, chicken plucker, the module. And this module is 3 movements: swing through, spin the top, slide through. Chicken plucker, module, chicken plucker, get out. And yet for the dancers, wow, standard, yeah, I can do a square through, right and left through. Okay, the collar's doing a chicken plucker. I know that. Okay, right and left through, dive. Oh, wait a minute. He's done another chicken plucker, but it's different. Swing through, Ferris wheel, square through 3. Yeah, okay. Oh, left hand stuff. I better pay attention. But what's he done? Another chicken plucker. Here's a module, right hand free, swing through, spin the top, slide through. Great. I'm working with different people. Oh my God, he's taking me on the other side. Oh, how did he do that? Another chicken plucker. There's that module again, but it's different people. What's he going to do now? Oh, another chicken plucker, but he's working a different hand. Oh, where did she come from? And yet if I told you 10 weeks ago that I'm going to have you call 7 chicken pluckers and a 3 movement module, you'd say, well, the dancers are going to get bored with that. I can guarantee you the dancers are not going to get bored with that. Okay. So through the use of simple directional symmetry and make sure it works, you can increase that dancing experience, like we said, tenfold. All you've done is taken your modules and you've made them better. For the new caller, understanding and using simple directional location symmetry will open an avenue of calling to you that you didn't even know it existed. You don't want to be complex. You don't want to keep going everything left in definitions. Simple, short, symmetrical versions of what you know work. Your dancers are going to thank you for it, and you will thank yourself for it, because now what you're doing is reinforcing the modules and techniques that you already know and that they already know. You're reaffirming your 5 foundation modules. You're solidifying your traffic flow interaction modules with the chicken pluckers. You're adding fixes to flow and hand issues with options that weren't even there before, such as getting rid of that overflow that men screw that usually the number 4 lady into the ground, or ladies screw that number 1 man into the ground, just by changing something simple like that. And you're putting into your memory and your repertoire things about flow and sequence that are greatly going to enhance your calling when you finally do begin to sight call, because this is going to be something sitting in the back of your mind that you can plug in anywhere. Most importantly, you're creating a floor of successful, happy dancers that feel like they've accomplished something different, something that wasn't boring, something that had them going different directions and interacting with different people all the time, and getting home with a, wow, where did that come from? And yet it was so simple. As Bob said, left double passer. Oh my God, I got no hands. I got to go on the left side. That doesn't feel right. Oh, wow, I did that successfully. Beat that, thank God. And a big smile comes to their face, even though they've really done something that's so simple, they don't even realize it was complex. The dancers are happy. The dancers are successful in meeting your challenge. They feel inspired, and they're more likely to stay, play, and grow with you and your club than what we've gone through for the last 15, 20 years. Rush away to get to that fun level, because there's a little bit more variety, and what we're doing here is just mundane stuff over and over again. We're doing more with less, and we're creating better dancers with a lot bigger skill set, with a lot more attitude of, wow, I want to stay and have fun, than we will ever have done before, through the use of a very, very simple tool. And after all, it's all about them in the first place. This tool of symmetry is for the dancers. It's not for the callers. It's a caller's tool in the toolbox, and it works. Try it. It works. Your dancers are going to thank you for it, and you're going to thank yourself for it. So that is a lot. I'll go quickly through the questions on mine, and then
I have none.
I want one. Oh, I got one question. Is that my chair making noise? Probably was, because my chair creaks, and I do apologize for that. Directional symmetry is something that many callers master very quickly. There's some that don't even know it. If Barry was here, I was kind of hoping he'd tune in, but Barry Watson, he was with us last week. He is a fellow that does this automatically, and sometimes I don't even think he knows he's doing it.
He is
He'll
here.
just flip from right hand to left hand. He says he's not a modular caller. I say that's not true. He is a modular caller in that he uses sequences that are in the back of the head, and he flips them left to right so seamlessly that it makes me sick. Sometimes I just want to go out and slap him in the back of the head. He makes it look so bloody easy. But he's one of those callers that whether or not he knows it or doesn't know it, it just makes it feel good for you while you're dancing. Jerry Story was another one that would do this left hand. In fact, this particular presentation is one that I was working on with Jerry before he passed. It's one that we gave to the Australian Callers Federation, and it's been expanded a little bit since then. But it's a very, very powerful tool. So by all means, if you have any questions, throw them out there.
I wondered what that sort of like noise and air was at the back of my head. It must have been you slapping me across the back of my head.
I didn't realize you're on. I didn't see you come in. Yeah. If I'd known you were here, if I'd known you were here, I wouldn't have been saying so many nice things about you.
Yeah, I noticed. Yes, I noticed. Yeah, I had a phone call right at 9 o'clock, which woke me up. So it was lucky.
Are you sure?
Okay, now John Bitt has put in a question, and this is an actual great question. Is left wheel and deal actually a mainstream call? I thought it was only used as a gimmick for DBD or advanced or all of the above.
Yeah,
the answer to that question is no, it's not. It's a basic call. The basic left modified wheel and deal is on the basic program, isn't it?
The wheel and deal, but not left. It's a modifier starting.
Hang on. The actual explanation of left calls, qualifiers, and the rules and definitions will apply to all of these calls. The issue is it's not used normally at the basic and mainstream program. When you have a left wheel and deal, now, having that said, that's the clarification. When you do a left wheel and deal, a lot of callers think it starts at the advanced because, oh, you've got to change something. But it doesn't really. It's become used there because you have to actually think. I've used this at basic many times. I've seen other callers use this at basic many times. It uses a simple prompt. Right hand couple goes in first normally. You just say pass through, do a left wheel and deal, left hand couple in first, or everybody, left hand couple take a step forward. Instead, you say right hand couple take a step forward. Everybody left wheel and deal. You walk them through that very quickly once or twice, and they will have it solid. It is, by convention, by definition, and by explanation and clarification in the Caller Lab rules, basic level dancing. But it's not accepted at basic level dancing because it's a non-standard application in most parts. It's that one part of all of this that is a little different. And that's the one part, that's why I had the exclamation marks or the asterisks after it. It's the one part of this you may have to actually walk your dancers through.
Well, you always can walk dancers through and workshop and do anything then, but with the program, as I would say it, as far as I know it, being the vice chairman of the committee, there are certain left calls which are explicit, like left square through, left touch a quarter, left turn through. They're explicit in the basic and in the mainstream program, they're named. But generalizing the left as a modifier starts at the A program, where you could use, of course, if you workshop it through the program and work it slowly, then you may use it at a dance, but you should not accept the dancers to know it.
Oh, no. By all means, you should not expect the dancers to know anything you have not introduced them to prior to. When I started dancing basic, left wheel and deal was taught at the same time as wheel and deal. That's just the way it was done. I think that's the way it was done through most of Europe, because The modifier left, the qualifier, and the conditions were part of the definitions. This is where you do them. So you look at them. It was never expanded forward into all sorts of weird and wonderfuls, but I would definitely love Color Lab to come up. And if they want that to go, this is A1 with that qualification, then put it in plain writing instead of just saying, all of these calls can be modified with a left modifier. All these can be modified with this. Reverse, what is a reverse call? Instead of just saying additional commands, modifiers, left. And that's as far as they go in the explanations. They don't clarify it anywhere else. This is one of the things, and Michael, it's an excellent comment. It's an excellent question, because this is one of the areas where you get the difference between dance by definition and death by definition. If you take any of these things to an extreme, you're going to hurt your dancers and totally destroy what it is you're trying to achieve. A wheel and deal is one of those that's in that.
And I think that's one thing where we went from standard application to extended application away from the DBD, because by dance by definition is another thing, because everything you call should be by the definition. So
yes.
Yeah, but it's a gimmick type thing. One thing which I would like to add is with the Ferris wheel from a left-handed two-phase line, I'd always prefer to do a left pass through in the center due to the body flow, or a left double pass through. And
That's a good point.
And even then you can have a turn the corner by the right and come back with a partner, do a do passo, which is a totally different feel, and you have it resolved as well. And everything is fine with hand availability and body flow, of course. Yeah.
Absolutely. And yet a Ferris wheel, what's so nice about a Ferris wheel, if it's danced instead of this sliding roll, you've got a right hand pass through, you've got a left hand pass through, both are equally functional. But the beauty of the symmetry is when you finish the Ferris wheel, your center dancers are face to face in a place that they know. The formation is a formation that the dancers know. The formation is a formation the callers know, and it's a standard formation. And where you go from there, and this just adds on to what Bob was saying, call a left pass through to a left hand swing through, and it feels so different. And you hear pass through, left swing through. You get that all the time. The emphasis is so hard on the left. You're doing that right shoulder pass through, and you got to go to that left hand. But when you think about it, the right hand shoulder, you've got to make those adjustments as dancers all the time. Anywhere you can find that to smooth it out, to add that little bit of flair, will enhance the dancer experience and make it much, much more comfortable for the dancers. Excellent comment. John, you had your hand up.
Yeah. When I was doing an angel with a new partner, wanted to learn advance, and the caller came out, and I was dancing for a few years to advance before that, and he came through and he taught all his calls right and left at the same time. In that night, and I'll tell you, it made a big difference in learning the calls. It was really, really effective.
Yeah, and some places you can do that, and that's going to be very dependent on your class. I've seen classes where that will just fall apart, and I've seen classes where that will actually work phenomenally. Some calls you can teach square through. I've seen it done, teach square through, left square through, 3, 4, 5, and et cetera, on the same night. I personally don't do that. I'll teach square through and I'll do a left square through on a different night, but I'll work some left hand stuff like a left pull by or a left pull by turn in, right pull by to the corner, Alaman, that kind of stuff, to get them into the flow and prepare them for when I'm going to do that. But as a caller, you have to look at what works for you, what works for your dancers is generally correct. And how I do it, how Barry does it, how Bob does it, how Michael does it, may not work for your group, but how you do it for your group might not work for our group. That's where caller judgment comes in. And it's a big, big ask to learn all that. Yes, Bob.
Yeah. When I have found in most cases, when you start and you just do a left square through, it's kind of difficult for those people, but you can almost completely remove that difficulty by saying, shake left hands, now square through 4. Once they got the hand, the square through is not difficult.
Yep.
So
And
take
then
the
you can
left
drop
hand
that
and
to make
square
left hand.
through. Bingo, they do it.
Absolutely. I just want to add on a couple of other things here that have come up, and this comes up a lot of the times. For instance, the concept of mirror this, mirror that. That's, I believe, A2 or challenge. And yet the mirror concept is introduced in basic. And they give a version, a mirror version of a call has the dancer passing left shoulders instead of right shoulders. For example, Bob said left double pass through. These, the same with left-hand rules, left-hand qualifications, all of those other kinds of things, the squared set conventions. Rules and conventions are not well explained in the basic program. The only explanation that you have for left is it's used as a prefix call, and it generally instructs the dancers that all lefts and right throughout the call, and then you go to, to interchange left and right throughout the call. So on a wheel and deal, we're changing right-hand couple in first to left-hand couple in first. That's defined in the basic program. The convention for use has been argued, and what Michael is saying is correct. There is a lot of discussion and there's a lot of consternation about this because it's not used and dancing has dropped back so much, it becomes, this is now advanced. And that's why on some of the callers programs, you'll see it's basic, and others caller programs, it'll come up as A1. And don't be afraid to do that. But what Bob Elling just said there, that's the secret to success. Give your dancers every opportunity to see. If they haven't done left square, shake left hands. Now hold on, start with that hand. Left square through 4. You can wean off that first couple of helper words very, very quickly, and the dancers will succeed very quickly. Somebody else had their hand up there for a second. Wasn't sure who that was.
And it's very important, Mel. You give them helper words. Helper words are for the first couple of times they do the call. They should not become a permanent partner or part of the vocabulary.
Yeah, we've done a couple sessions on helper words, filler words, and helper words are that help, but you got to stop helping sometime. Somebody asked, are we aware that AC-deucey is the same definition as end circulate center straight? Yes, most people are aware of that. In most references, even at the basic level, when you start talking callers, they refer to things as the AC-deucey method or the Dixie Grand method of something. And even if you don't call that level, you're familiar with the terminology. But as with most things, most of our calls are combinations of other calls. Some of them are really, really great from higher levels because they are just a combination of simple calls at the basic level. And it is a good observation. It's something that most callers should do when they do their call analysis. Michael has added that reverse wheel around and lead left were just added a couple weeks ago into the basic definition listing as accepted. That was, they were always there. They were just added in as clarification because they were part of the nomenclature because there were some clarifications, and this is exactly attesting to what Michael was saying earlier. Although it's always been part of the definition, the same as single circle has always been part of the basic program. It's because it's not used that way. Now it needs to have a clarification because it dropped off the radar. It's back on the radar. It dropped off. It wasn't used. Now it went to a different program. Single circle to a wave was plus. Oh, it's a plus move. We can't use it at basic. That's not the way it was intended. That's not the way. Dancing was intended for the dancers to have fun. And quite frankly, I don't care if you call heads, do a whoppity whippity splash and with an inverted 3/4 Flander glam. If your dancers know what you're talking about and they're laughing and having fun, I don't care. You're a good caller. They'll come back to dance to you. If you don't know what a Flander glam is, chances are you're going to bring somebody next week to come and find out what a Flander glam was because, hey, Barry Wanson was calling Flander glam all last week. We want him to do that again. And we want him to teach us Flander glam. That looked like fun. And guess what? They'll come to you and dance Flander glam, even though it's not on any program anywhere.
And somebody walks up and says, you can't call that. And I say, no, I can call it. You can't.
True enough. So anyway, that is a review of symmetry. It's a very, very basic. There's so much more to it, but that is for a new caller starting out. Look at your foundation modules. That's the basis of your symmetry start. And that's really where your focus should be, just looking at it. Instead of touch a quarter, all eight circulate, boys run, partner line to corner box. If you got that flow, left touch quarter, all eight circulate, girls run. Swing through, boys run, Ferris wheel, centers pass through. Left swing through, girls run, Ferris wheel, left pass through, or pass through if you want a right hand motion next. Set up your motion so that your right hand and left hand are coming free. You can set up your chicken pluckers to have the left hand free to go into an Alaman left or a left hand move, or a right hand free to go into a right hand move. It doesn't have to be square through three. It can be a left square through three. Now your right hand is free to do something with that corner box movement for the wow get out if you want that.
But as like Michael said, after that left-handed Ferris wheel, to call a left pass through is actually more comfortable than a right shoulder pass through.
Absolutely. And you'll find all of these little things everywhere, and it will expand your calling repertoire phenomenally. Like I said, that last sequence that I showed you, if I told a new caller, and you hear this all the time, okay, I want you to do a singing call. Here's a corner box. Just do a chicken plucker, do this figure, do the chicken plucker, do the rest of your figure, or do your module, chicken plucker, Alaman left. That's you starting to call pattern. Well, I had one module in there. Swing through, spin the top, slide through, chicken plucker, chicken plucker, chicken plucker, symmetrical chicken plucker, module, symmetrical chicken plucker, module, chicken plucker, symmetrical chicken plucker, Alaman left. Wow. And it feels like a whole new routine, and the dancers are going everywhere saying, wow, that was weird. That was comfortable. I beat that challenge. And it's smooth to dance. It's familiar to the dancers. It's fun for the dancers. They know it. They'll do it. The floor is open. Hello, Masako. I didn't see you sneak in there. Wow, that was either probably the most confusing session I've ever done or one of the clearest sessions I've ever done.
I thought, Mel, the part that I heard, which was the last 2 minutes, was excellent.
The rest was just as good, Barry.
Okay.
Like I said, Barry, if I'd known you were in here, I wouldn't have been so flattering for you. Actually,
Bob, you're doing schmoozing. Be careful. I heard that.
Actually, I would have been. Barry is a very exceptional caller, and I meant every word about that. He has that ability to switch left to right, right to left, with seemingly flawless transitions, and it's smooth. And sometimes I watch him doing it. It just drives me insane because I can't do it that well. But then again, he's been calling probably about 50 years longer than the rest of us anyway. So
Thank you. Thank you.
Throw that in. Okay. Hey, Mel, you were talking about deaf, but you know, back in the time when they first started, when they were switching over from all position dancing to dancing by definition, calling it DBD, I said it sounds like a pesticide more than a level of dancing. But then someone, I don't know where I heard it, someone came up with the concept of DBD stood for don't bother dancing.
Yep. And actually, there was a lot of very, very derogatory terms about DBD. I can't remember who said it in here, but somebody pointed out that the term DBD was always a misnomer because anytime you dance, you should be dancing by definition. DBD became a calling card for clever callers to expand the choreography to such a point that you see where you could take it without actually breaking it and still be able to fit the definition, even though you couldn't recognize what it was anymore. And it drove the dancers crazy. Not every caller did that. There was some, and don't get me wrong, there are some excellent callers that call variety would fit into what that theme of DBD was. Then there was all position dancing, which was, hey, you're going to dance the boys part and you're going to dance the girls part. That was all positions. But that became, let's take DBD and really confuse the hell out of the dancers and call this APD and see how much further we can push it and even break all the rules even more. And finally, after about 15, 20 years of absolute nonsense, some very wise callers said, enough's enough. This is stupid. The dancers are disappearing, or they're going to a level where you've got pretty plain calling, but more movements for variety, because they don't like being challenged to the point that their brain hurts. They like being challenged to the point that they win, that they're having fun, and they can go down at the end of the tip and have a drink and say, wow, that was great. I love that. As opposed to, oh, my brain hurts. I don't want to do this anymore. And that's where we were with it.
Well, I always, Mel, I used to always say I'd rather the dancers leave a dance saying, well, it wasn't that high of a level of stuff, but we had a great time. I'd rather them go out like that than to say, boy, Bill was calling some really interesting choreography. I wish we could have done it. No?
Yep.
Well, when it comes to DBD, all my dancers dance by definition. It's just not always the color lab definition. It's their
Mel, is
own.
that the right file you've shared there? That's the Sicilian Circle one. I guess you're trying to sort of share the presentation
did I?
today.
Oh, sorry.
I know a lot of dancers that do want to dance until their brain hurts. I mean, a lot of the challenge, a lot of them, people think if they're not challenged, it's not fun. I mean, I enjoy, you know, a challenge sometimes. I mean, if something's advertised dance by definition, you expect it to be difficult. If you want to just have smooth fun and you're not ready for it, don't go to a place that's to a session that's dance by definition or L position or whatever.
Well, I never wanted to be challenged the entire night. I wanted to have some fun with it there, but you know, as a dancer, even as a caller. But I'm not going to do that. If you want to have that kind of an experience, well, move up to challenge level because that's what they do.
Okay. Just for those of you that I posted the handout and the slides. The proper slides. I've sent those to Mark also in Word and in PDF version. But attached to that is an appendix, and it has a lot of simple, the simple common modules. I just pulled out a bunch of simple common modules that were there, and the symmetrical version. At the end of it now, it says the left, I've added on, the left modifier applies to calls that interchange left and right. It is also applicable clockwise and counter. It should only be used to modify calls where a right-hand turn or shoulder pass is clearly part of the definition. Okay, the left modifier is usually used with calls to start one of the following, like a right pull by can become a left pull by, left square chain or square chain through, or left split square through, or something like that. Pass through, left do-si-do, left pass through, left pass and roll, all those other kinds of things. I've added on a few of those clarifications because what Michael said is absolutely correct. It is ambiguous, and it's a very ambiguous definition. When using left as a prefix call, left instructs the dancers to interchange left and right, and then it just says refer to in additional detail, and the only thing it gives is extensions like reverse wheel around. It's not clarified, so what Michael said is absolutely correct. I've added that on to the end of the notes. They're in the note pages, so just be cautious with that. And like I said, start small, aim big, but you got to start small, one bit at a time, and it will help you build your dancing repertoire, and your dancers will thank you for it. Well, this is
Mel?
Yes, Alan.
I've found a good exercise is just to go through your record box and just take the singing call figures that are there and see if you can convert them to a left arrangement.
Excellent suggestion. And
you can find yourself typically like things if you finish with a touch a quarter scoot back, for instance, into a swing. Well, can I resolve that? Yes, you could. Left touch a quarter scoot back, roll promenade. So there are ways of finding alternatives, and things like if you're doing a double pass through, first one left, next one right, you can change that to right to left,
Yep.
And maybe if the finish was the boys walk across, then you'd have the girls walk across. So by just clever alternating things like that, you can actually switch how the singing core figures work, and it does. For instance, the coming from a Ferris wheel, a lefty Ferris wheel where you're swinging uphill, where you can wheel around to face the corners to swing, is better than coming the other way, and then you've got to square through 3 to swing the corners. So square through 3's been made acceptable, but it's really not ideal, is it? You could square through 3 and turn a left for a roll promenade or something like that. Yeah, so work on your singing core figures is a good way of starting, as well as your modules, your base modules.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun.
Well,
Yeah, and there's
I know it's hard to believe, but square dancing can be a lot of fun.
And adding to that is another thing, like what Alan just said. If there's a circle to a line, we could use a reverse circle to a line. But then again, this is a modifier, which is got to be workshopped carefully. And it's really starting at the A program, another modifier. We do have some explicit in the mainstream and basic program with reverse the flutter and now adding reverse wheel around. But they're explicitly named, but this would be another thing to add variety. Or I like simplicity.
I would add on, however, Michael, that one of the reasons that the argument came up was not because of the level. It was because there are movements that are explicitly named, and because they are explicitly named, it tend to eliminate others. There are clarifications. For instance, we just put lead to the left on the basic program by simple default, using that logic of explicitly named. Lead to the left would have been advanced.
Right.
Reverse wheel around would have been advanced, and yet they were so common at basic. That's where we've gone to the pendulum swing of, because we name things now, if it's not named in black and white, it's not part of the program. That is not true. Okay, but common sense would always dictate, as Michael has said, as Bob has said, as Barry said, err on the side of dancers to dancers' success. If you have to take a long time to explain reverse circle to a line, then you should not be doing that at the basic program. Right. I personally wouldn't do it at the basic. I personally wouldn't do it at the advanced program, but that's just me. I just don't like it. But that's, everybody is in that kind of a boat that they have to make the decision that they think is the best call, and that judgment call for your dancers and the dancers' success. And as long as you've got the dancers foremost in your mind, you're going to win 99% of the time. But if you're calling, if I, Barry and I have become pretty good friends, I hope. But if I had gone down to Barry and I had called down at Barry's club, shut up, Barry. And if I was calling to impress Barry, Barry probably would have said, "Oh, it was nice to meet you," and that would have been the end of a friendship. But when you can see that your focus is on the dancers, and your focus is on improving your craft, and your focus is on improving callers and the activity as a whole, it changes the whole dynamics of how you're going to interact with somebody as a caller and as a dancer. And that's what it's all about.
Circle 4 3/4, of course, is just as useful as a circle to a line.
Absolutely. And it gives you a different direction too.
Hey, Mel, just off the subject for a second. You mentioned earlier today you were having trouble. Steve Avery couldn't find the link for tonight's session. I couldn't find it either. I found Gene Turner online. He forwarded the information, but I never received the info for the link hookup for tonight.
Do you not receive my emails?
I do, but for some reason, I looked in the callers and training page, and usually you put something there, and I could not find anything.
I put the reminder in the callers and training page before I opened the room, also in newbie callers, also in Square Dance Choreography, and on the Australian callers page as well. I put the notification up and I sent that, but if you didn't get the email, there's a few people that called me, including Mark, that said, is there a session this Sunday, because he hasn't seen the email on it. And there's a few people that didn't get the original email. So that being said, that could well be a Telstra issue, which is our service provider here. We've had nothing but problems for the last week in this area with Telstra. So that could be part of the problem. But
you sent out emails too?
yeah, everybody that's asked me to put them on an email list, I send it out by email invitation as well.
Just to cover my bases, put me on your list.
Okay, Bill.
Isn't it the same link?
It's the same link every week. I don't change the link. It's a fixed
Yeah, now
link.
once you have the link, you just use it every week.
Okay, I've got the email, or I've got the message I got from Jane Turner tonight. I'll keep that, and that'll give me my link. So we're okay, I think. Maybe.
I put the link on a bookmark so that I can just click on it every week. Same thing for Don Beck. He's gone to using the same link all the time.
Yeah.
That way you don't have to.
Yeah, that makes it a lot easier.
Oh yeah.
Okay, just a reminder to everybody, next week, Edeltraud, are you still here?
No.
No, she's gone to bed.
Already went to bed.
Yeah, Guido's going to make sure that Edeltraud is up, and Edeltraud's going to make sure that Guido next time before she commits to something lets her know that it starts at midnight for her.
Oh, past midnight.
Now it's 1 o'clock
okay.
in the morning for you. But next week, Edeltraud is going to be with us talking about the business side of calling. She's going to be putting her take on it and how it applies, because there's a lot of aspects of the business which are unique for your country. But for the most part, most of the actual business side of calling and the common sense and logic behind the business of calling is pretty standardized across the board. So I'm looking forward to that session. May the 23rd, we've got Jeff Priest coming up to talk about the teaching basics, how to teach, providing fun right from the beginning. I've been in contact with Dave Prescott. I'm hoping to get him back up, Mike Sikorsky, and a few others back on. As we've talked earlier, one of the things that we're looking at right now in the Northern Hemisphere, we're getting to the end of the dancing season. Even though most people haven't been dancing for COVID, a lot of people are looking forward to getting back to calling and starting again. A lot of people are not here now because they've already started calling again and they're dancing on their Saturdays or Sundays. So we're going to go back and start looking at a lot of those base foundation fundamentals of calling again for new callers, as well as for the journeyman callers, revisiting some of the topics that we've talked about before, more in a discussion phase, to develop those skills and help you along, and also to build those relationships. Like I know Yolanda, you're talking to Bob a fair bit now and getting that kind of feedback back and forth. And that's what we're trying to encourage here, is for the more experienced callers, if you're a newer caller, or if you're a very experienced caller or a journeyman, there's Chris Stacy. Hey, Chris, how are you doing? Listen, I'm having trouble with this. You free next Friday night, or what's a good time for you? Could I get a Zoom session with you? And Chris and most callers are very, very giving of their time to help develop these skills or look at different aspects. So this is what we're trying to do here with these types of sessions. So if you have any suggestions or things that you want to look at in particular, by all means do so and send me those. I will tell you all now, on Friday, my surgery on my spine and on my knee was finally approved. So hopefully sometime by the end of this month, I will go in and do surgery. If that does have a hiccup, I've talked to Mark. It's a fixed link, but Mark might send out another link to everybody, and I'll send him the mailing list, and he'll post it in the newbie callers and everything, just to host the presentation if I'm not here. But I will try my best to be here. My wife has already informed me that if I'm in the hospital on a Sunday, I'm not to be conducting a Zoom session from my hospital bed.
Why not?
Why not? All you need is a laptop.
Bloody lazy.
And the good part would be you would not need to go out to mow the lawn.
She mows the lawn anyway.
I was actually going to do that yesterday, and I went and did the grocery shopping, and she had it done by the time I got back. So,
somehow I think, Mel, if you did do that, you might be in that hospital a little bit longer.
Well, I'm already in trouble right now because I got her some flowers for Mother's Day yesterday, because I knew I'd be tied up with this morning, and what I was going to get her, I couldn't get. So I've arranged Monday. We'll go and do some shopping to get her what she wanted. But like a total idiot, I did the typical man thing. I thought, okay, well, I've already got plans and everything. I should have at least got a box of chocolates or a card for her to open today. I didn't, and so I'm in the doghouse. So, and rightfully so, because like I said, if a tree falls in the wood and nobody's around to hear it, believe me, the man is still going to be wrong.
And my wife told me for the years we've been together that I'm not to get her a Mother's Day card or anything, because she ain't my mother.
Bill, it's a trap.
No, so far it's been that way, so far.
Scotty knows what I'm talking about. It's a trap. Oh, I don't want anything. You better get something. It's a trap.
Uh-huh.
Mel,
I have a secret stash of chocolate that in emergencies I pull it out.
Mel, all you have to do is go to the garden and pick a flower out the garden. It's the thought that counts.
I got her a whole bunch
pull
of
weeds out of the lawn.
Not weeds.
Get her a picture of a flower. You don't have to water that.
What I'm finding hilarious is that Bob thinks that his wife doesn't know about his secret stash of chocolates.
She doesn't. She doesn't.
I'm gonna
She knows I have one, but she doesn't know where it is. She looks, she searches.
I'm going to call your wife and tell her that.
Go ahead.
That
she enjoys receiving the chocolate. She's not going to upset it.
I've just put my email in the chat. There's about 13. Can you put me on the email lists? If you could just send me an email, just saying add me to the Zoom list. That way I can go through them one by one, because I have a hard time finding the chat in my chat logs once they're done. So just send me an email if you want to be put on the mailing list. And the room is open. If anybody has any questions or comments or any ideas that they want to look at, by all means.
I just have a small thing.
Sorry, go ahead, Barry.
It's not to do with this, actually. It's just a little commentary to Susie and Simon from the UK. I sent you a message earlier. Did you receive my message? It's in the chat down the bottom.
Yeah. Yes, I scrolled back through. I saw your reminder, scrolled back through, and I've sent you a reply.
Perfect.
Thank you, Barry.
The answer is yes.
Okay. Everybody can carry on now.
Yeah.
I've got one thing I'd like to
Michael.
share. Two things. Most important is that we don't only do our job on stage with calling and presenting the calls and whatever, but we also maybe are informed about what's going on, maybe in politics and in the movies. So we have some conversation with dancers or in sporting. Okay. So if I'm very happy today, and I've got a funny clothing on today in my cap. But one thing is what I'd like to share is if you all put your hands forward, all hands forward, and then raise them up. And I say thank you for the championship of Bavaria Munich. We made it today.
Hey, guys, and you really should, because that is probably one of the best cricket teams in Europe.
Cricket? We're talking about soccer.
I've seen them play.
Yeah, I'm a member of that club. No, and they're so famous and world record setting, and they made it again. And yeah, so I'm very happy. Before you read it tomorrow, you now know it. They're champion in Germany again, the 9th time in a row. And Guido is probably going crazy because he's way up north and with HSV and whatever. But for Susie and Simon, I've got to say respect, because we got two British teams, two English teams in the UEFA Championship.
Yeah.
We didn't make it this year, but yeah, we had a big year last year and still. So this is just a fun part. Thanks a lot for
they won 6-0 yesterday.
Yeah.
Did the other team show up?
Yeah.
And they only scored 6 goals.
The thing is, Bayern München and Borussia Mönchengladbach the other team were in the 70s
Yeah.
exchanging the championship.
Yeah.
One year was Mönchengladbach, the next year was Munich, then Mönchengladbach again. And now they just...
Now, when does a kid really realizes something? 3, 4 years, 5? So
I'm
if
still
you
waiting.
at 9, if you put 9 years on that, the last 9 years Bayern Munich has been championship. There are kids out there, they've never known anything else but Bayern München being on first place. So
couple of years ago, Frankfurt.